All right, we're going to go right now to Secretary of State Hilary Clinton talking about U.S.-China relations.
Is that we have laid the foundation for a positive, cooperative, and comprehensive relationship for the 21st century. Our governments released a joint statement summarizing our discussions. During our meetings, we spoke candidly about some of the world's most difficult challenges. We agreed that further cooperation and action is needed to achieve global economic recovery, to promote stability in Northeast Asia, resume the six-party talks, and implement UN Security Council Resolution 1874, to address ongoing threats of violent extremism and nuclear proliferation, to encourage Iran to live up to its international obligations, and to work toward peace and stability in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the Middle East. We made progress in working toward the Global Nuclear Security Summit that President Obama has called for next spring. And I'm pleased to announce that we will be conducting U.S.-China talks on counterterrorism this fall. We agreed to a continuation and expansion of our military-to-military relations and to robust educational, cultural, scientific, and people-to-people diplomacy. For our part, the United States was proud to reaffirm our participation in the Shanghai World Expo next year. And later this evening, we and our Chinese colleagues will participate in a dinner of American business leaders and citizens supporting that effort. In areas where we do not always agree, such as human rights, we had candid and respectful exchanges. We also today, representing the world's two biggest producers and consumers of energy, completed a memorandum of understanding to enhance cooperation on climate change, energy, and the environment. This MOU affirmed our commitment to reaching a successful international agreement on climate change and will expand our cooperation to accelerate the transition to a sustainable, low-carbon economy. These are just a few of the concrete discussions and achievements of this first strategic and economic dialogue. It represents 30 years of progress because in many ways we are building on the work that has gone before and taking it to a new level. But sometimes the most telling measures of progress are less tangible. Over the past 2 days, State Councilor Dye and I have spent many hours in discussion. We've had the opportunity to meet privately and to talk very openly between ourselves, to try to understand each other's point of view. And I know the same is true for Secretary Geithner and Vice Premier Wong. Our delegations have spent hours in consultation and negotiation, and we've not been limited to just the usual topic or two. We've enlisted partners from across our government to work across departments and bureaus and agencies to tackle these difficult challenges that we are facing together. Climate change and energy security, for example, is an economic issue, a diplomatic issue, a development issue, an energy issue, an environmental issue, an agricultural issue, and a national security issue, all rolled into one. And so it must be addressed in its full complexity. We have made a good start on that, and we look forward to continuing it in the future. This dialogue has established a new pattern of cooperation between our governments and a forum for discussion. It's begun to develop a structure for moving forward on this range of issues. Now, we know there's a lot of work ahead, but we began this process at the beginning of the Obama administration for a purpose, because we knew it would take time and effort and patience, and we are willing and eager to continue. Sunday night, the State Councilor and I and a few of our aides were having dinner, and in the course of what was a very relaxed and social occasion, we were discussing our families, and State Councilor Dye informed us that he had a new grandson. As we began talking, we realized that all that we were doing was really on behalf of our children and our grandchildren. I said that perhaps at the beginning of every government dialogue, we should all take out pictures of our children and our grandchildren and put them on the tables in front of us to be reminded of what was at stake in our high-level negotiations. As State Councilor Dye said, those photos would remind us of the task ahead and of our responsibility to move forward and of the future we are trying to build. We just finished meeting with President Obama, and he expressed his appreciation to President Hu for working to set forth this dialogue, starting at their meeting in London. We are committed to taking the next steps on this journey together. And I thank our Chinese colleagues for a very important beginning. It is now my privilege to introduce Secretary Tim Geithner.
A few highlights on the economic front. I want to begin by just underscoring the importance of the actions China and the United States have taken together to help bring the world economy back from the edge of the most acute crisis we've seen in decades, and to begin to lay the foundation for financial repair and global growth again. We reached agreement today on a framework to lay the foundation for more sustainable and balanced growth between our two countries and globally going forward. And that framework rests on four critical areas of cooperation. First, we agreed that we would undertake macroeconomic and structural policies to lay the foundation for more sustainable and balanced trajectory of growth. In the United States, this means raising private savings. We've already seen a pretty substantial increase in private savings. Our current account balance has fallen sharply, and the President has committed that as we put in place conditions for a durable recovery led by private demand, we will bring our fiscal position down to a more sustainable level over time. We are making very substantial investments in improving public infrastructure, energy efficiency, improving the quality of education, healthcare reform, policy changes that will help rebuild the American economy on a firmer foundation going forward. For China, this means rebalancing towards domestic demand-led growth and increasing the share of consumption relative to GDP. Policies to enable adjustment of demand and relative prices will help lead to more balanced trade and growth. Greater development of the service sector and the shift away from dependent on exports and heavy industry will have a powerful effect not just on rebalancing the global economy, but supporting the transition to a more green economy. Second area of cooperation is in the financial area. We agreed to work to build more resilient, more stable financial systems. Our challenges in this area are very different. In the United States, we need to put in place much stronger oversight, with much stronger constraints on leverage, more conservative capital requirements applied more broadly across our financial system, to bring markets that are critical to credit and innovation, such as in the derivatives area, under a framework of oversight, to give the government better tools, stronger tools to deal with, manage, limit the damage caused by future financial crises. China, in contrast, is moving towards a more market-oriented financial system. And it's indicated in our meetings today its intention to move forward with financial sector reform that will help better allocate credit to reinforce this shift towards domestic demand. In this context, China will, of course, bring about further liberalization of interest rates, domestic interest rates, and promote the development of new financial products, open new opportunities for foreign participation in the financial sector, including allowing foreign banks to underwrite bonds in China's rapidly growing bond market. Third area of cooperation is in the trade and investment area. We reaffirmed our very important commitment to open rules-based multilateral regime for trade and investment. We renewed our commitment to avoid protectionist measures to bring about a successful conclusion to the Doha round. China and the United States committed to treating firms with foreign ownership operating in our markets exactly as we do domestically owned firms when it comes to government procurement. We agreed to work together to facilitate Chinese accession to the WTO government procurement agreement, and China will increase the dollar threshold for foreign direct investments that must obtain central government approval. Fourth and finally, China and the United States recognize the critical role of the international financial institutions in preventing future crises. The global economy has changed fundamentally since the Bretton Woods institutions created more than 50 years ago, and the global financial architecture has to adapt to reflect the new realities of this global economy. So we've committed to work closely together to help reform these institutions, to make sure they have the resources to respond to future crises, to help meet the economic and development needs of their members, and to bring about changes in the governance structure of these institutions to make sure China enjoys a level of participation that's commensurate with its substantial economic and financial weight in the world. We look forward to building on this framework of cooperation. We look forward to continuing to intensify the very substantial progress we achieved today on this broad framework for cooperation. And I want to thank in particular Vice Premier Wang for his leadership and for his dedication to make this a productive relationship for both of us. Thank you very much.